When I bought my quiet dream home in the woods just outside the HOA boundary, I thought I'd finally found peace. But the moment I turned my key in the front door, a woman came sprinting across the street screaming that I was breaking in. She didn't know I owned the place and had the receipts. The first day I arrived at my new home, the air was thick with pine and morning mist. I had just signed the final papers that week. A clean deal, no HOA, no dues, and no neighbors breathing down my neck about mailbox paint or lawn height. The small, two-story brick house sat right at the edge of a cul-de-sac that belonged to an HOA-run neighborhood called Maple Heights. But my property, thanks to an overlooked county zoning line, was outside their jurisdiction. I'd done my homework carefully. As I pulled up, I noticed how pristine everything looked across the street. Identical mailboxes, same flower beds, lawns trimmed to military precision. And then, across that invisible border, my house stood different, natural, untamed, and peaceful. It was exactly what I wanted, but peace didn't last 10 minutes. I grabbed my key, walked up the steps, and slid it into the lock. That's when I heard a shrill voice behind me. "Hey, stop right there! What do you think you're doing?" I turned, startled. A middle-aged woman in yoga pants and a pastel sweater was power-walking toward me, phone in hand, face twisted in righteous fury. "I'm unlocking my house," I said, blinking in confusion. "That's not your house," she barked. "I know the people who live there. They moved out months ago, and no one bought it." "You're trespassing." I laughed softly, thinking she was mistaken. "Actually, I closed on it last week." "Got the title and everything." She wasn't listening. Her fingers flew over her phone screen. "Don't move!" "I'm calling the police right now." "Ma'am," I said, keeping my tone even, "you can call whoever you want." "My name's Daniel Carter, and this house is legally mine." Her eyes narrowed. "Daniel Carter, huh? Well, let's just see what the sheriff thinks about your little break-in." I turned the key and stepped inside, locking the door behind me just in time to hear her shouting outside, telling someone over the phone that a criminal had forced his way into a Maple Heights residence. Within 10 minutes, 2 sheriff cruisers pulled up, lights flashing. I stepped out with my paperwork ready. The deed, the title transfer, even the boundary maps. The officers were professional, asking me a few questions before turning to her. "Ma'am," one of them said, "this property's not part of Maple Heights HOA. Mr. Carter's paperwork checks out." Karen, because of course her name was Karen, looked genuinely dumbfounded. "That's impossible. This street is part of the community. We maintain this road. We mow the ditches." The deputy pointed to a small stone marker near my driveway, the zoning boundary. "That side of the marker belongs to the county. Not you, not the HOA." Her face went pale, then red. Well, that can't be right." "It's our street," the deputy sighed. "Ma'am, unless you own his property, you need to leave." She huffed, crossed her arms, and muttered, "We'll see about that." When the cruisers left, I thought it was over. But I underestimated her kind. Karen wasn't done, she was just getting started. Over the next few weeks, living next to Karen felt like living next to a surveillance drone with a pulse. Every morning I'd step outside for coffee, and there she'd be, standing at the edge of the cul-de-sac, pretending to trim her hedge, eyes locked on me. I ignored her, but one morning I came out to find an envelope taped to my mailbox. Inside was a notice of violation with the Maple Heights HOA logo. It claimed I'd failed to maintain acceptable exterior uniformity and threatened fines of $500 if not corrected in 30 days. I chuckled, shaking my head. They were serious. I took the notice straight to the county assessor's office. The clerk recognized the HOA name and sighed. "You're not the first. They've been trying to expand their boundary for years, but your property isn't under them." She stamped the papers for me and printed an official property jurisdiction letter stating, in bold text, "This address is outside HOA authority." I made 6 copies, one for the sheriff, one for my lawyer, and one to tape to my front door. The next day, Karen appeared again, strutting across the line like she owned the earth beneath her feet. "You can't post signs like that," she snapped. "It's misleading." "Misleading?" I raised an eyebrow. "You sent a fake violation notice." "It's not fake, it's official," she said, jabbing her finger toward me. "No, Karen," I replied, calm and steady. "It's harassment." Her lips twitched. "If you're going to live next to our community, you need to follow our standards. We don't tolerate unpainted fences or..." Or people who don't worship your HOA rulebook? I cut in, her nostrils flared. You think you're funny, but we can make your life miserable. We control the road maintenance, the water line, even the mailboxes. I smiled. You mean the private road that stops 30 feet before my driveway? Or the county water that doesn't run through your HOA pipes? Try again, her face contorted with fury. You'll regret this. Within a week, things escalated. Someone, probably her or one of her little board minions, dumped lawn clippings and trash along my driveway. Then my mailbox was knocked over one night. I installed motion sensor lights and cameras the next morning. The footage I captured was gold. There she was, Karen herself, creeping onto my property at 2 a.m., holding a flashlight and a clipboard, apparently taking notes. That was it. I called the sheriff again. When they arrived, I handed them the footage. The same deputy from before sighed, recognizing her immediately. You again, Mrs. Williams? He said. I was inspecting for code violations, she sputtered. He shook his head. On private land? Not your jurisdiction. You step foot here again, you'll be charged with trespassing. The look she gave me could have burned a hole in stone. She stormed off without another word. For the next few days, peace returned. No notes, no late-night visits. But I knew she wasn't done. Hallway types like her don't lose quietly, they plot. And sure enough, her next move wasn't sneaky. It was loud, public, and designed to humiliate me. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I'd invited a few friends over to grill. Music played softly, the smell of smoke and ribs drifted through the trees, and for once life felt good again. Then a familiar shriek pierced the air. He's at it again! Breaking in! Someone call the cops! I looked up just in time to see Karen stomping down the road, phone in hand, yelling like a banshee. Behind her, a few HOA residents peeked from porches, watching the drama unfold. Karen, I said, stepping off the porch, what exactly am I breaking into this time? My grill? She pointed wildly toward the house. I saw you take that door apart last week. You're altering the property without approval. Approval from who? I laughed. You? You don't even have authority here. Her voice shook with rage. You think you're clever. You've made a mockery of this neighborhood. You're a criminal. Then came the sirens. She'd actually called the police. Again. When the officers arrived, she rushed toward them dramatically. That's him. He's been breaking into that house for months. The lead officer frowned. Ma'am, we've already spoken about this. This man owns that property. She froze, blinking rapidly. No. He can't. He's lying. I stepped forward, holding up my phone, showing them the deed, video clips, and the county letter all in one file. The officer nodded, unimpressed by her tantrum. Ma'am, he said patiently, if you make another false report, you'll face charges for harassment and misuse of emergency services. Her jaw dropped. You're taking his side? We're taking the side of the law, he said firmly. The crowd behind her murmured. A few neighbors even shook their heads, embarrassed. Karen turned toward them, desperate. He's ruining our property values. He doesn't belong here. Someone in the crowd, a younger man from the HOA, spoke up. Karen, you're the one embarrassing us. Just stop, that broke her. She screamed something incoherent and stormed off, her voice echoing down the street. After that day, I didn't see her again for weeks. Rumor had it the HOA board forced her to step down. The sheriff's department issued her a warning that if she harassed me again, she'd face a restraining order. A month later, a moving truck appeared in front of her house. She didn't wave, didn't speak, just glared one last time before driving off. Now, when I walk out onto my porch in the evenings, the neighborhood feels peaceful. The air hums softly, and the only voices I hear are the crickets and the rustle of leaves. My home is finally quiet. Karen called me a criminal, but all I ever did was open my own front door. And in the end, the real thief wasn't me. It was her, trying to steal peace from everyone around her. I won't lie. Sometimes, when the wind blows just right through the trees, I almost expect to hear her voice again, sharp, indignant, convinced she's the hero of her own little war. But then I smile, lock my door, and let the forest swallow the echo, because this house, this land, this freedom, it's mine. And no HOA, no clipboard warrior, and no screaming Karen can ever take that away.